Hey, I hope you're doing well. In this video, I want to share a life perspective that I have been trying to practice and that I think would benefit a lot of people. And it's what I would call the non dual mindset or non dualistic thinking. And this is something that I think if people would implement in their lives, they would benefit a lot because it helps you navigate life and it would help people, especially now, navigate these weird times that we're in, right? With isolation and all this crazy stuff going on around the world. And so, non dualistic thinking, non dualism stems from the word dualism. And dualism, I would say, is an inherent quality of the universe in which we live, which is that everything comes with its corresponding opposite. And the universe itself is a dance between opposites, um, which are in essence inseparable because opposites, a magnet, you can hold a magnet and it has its south pole and its north pole, but the north and the south is not separate. It's part of one and the same thing. And these opposites or these polarities are countless, and there's many forms of them throughout the universe. The most obvious of which we could think is, hot and cold, night and day, light and darkness, inside and outside. Um, all of these things are opposites. And then there's the more abstract or philosophical opposites, which are, right and wrong, uh, chaos and order, love and hate, peace and violence, good people and bad people, and and yeah, uh, I could go on for a long time just thinking about all these different examples of corresponding opposites. But the point is that since the dawn of history, since we began this adventure of building and creating the world we live in today, our species human beings have tried to isolate one of the opposites. We have always been trying to cut a line between the good and the bad and isolate the good and make the bad disappear. And we've done this through all the religions we've made, all the social structures we've created. We've done it through the political systems that have risen and the technologies, everything, every um, aspiration that we've had is to aim at what is one side of the coin, right? One polarity, usually the positive one. So we're always changing, we're always chasing order, we're always chasing love, we're always chasing harmony and peace and pleasure. And I think despite this tremendous effort to isolate all the positive sides of life through all the progress, right? Progress we've made in human history, there's no clear indication that happiness has increased during this time more than what it was before, right? Like 100 years ago. So there's not a clear way of telling if we're being successful in this effort or not. And so in Buddhism, um, what they make you realize is that, you know, you can't separate the opposites, and one has to exist in order for the other to exist, because in essence they are one and the same thing, uh, you know and you can just do mental experiments, mental thought experiments to realize this by, you know think of a time when you were super relaxed and comfortable. Now, would you know what feeling relaxed and comfortable is if you had never experienced being uncomfortable or agitated? You wouldn't, because you need the opposite in order to contrast and tell the other uh, opposite apart. So you need to feel agitated in order to know what feeling relaxed is. In the same way that, how could we know what light is if darkness didn't exist, right? You need the dark contrast in order to tell what light is. Because if darkness ceased to exist, then light would cease to exist. It would lose all its meaning. Um, how would you know you're alive right now if you weren't dead before? If you weren't born before, if you didn't exist before, that's the only way you can contrast. Um, and this is how the universe works, right? It's that you can't separate the good and the bad, because in essence there's no good and bad. They're both part of the same thing. Uh, you know, Love and hate are the same emotion, just tuned to different degrees. Um, and so, what dualistic thinking uh, implies is that you realize how unified the opposites are, and that it's an illusion to try to separate one side of the opposites, or one side of life, right? You can't do it, because there's no boundaries except the ones we hold in our minds. So, so in practical terms, the way I've applied this is by, there's times where I'm in a bad mood, and I might feel stressed out or agitated or frustrated. But when I feel this, um, I remember that somehow I need to feel this so that later I can feel good and I can feel relaxed. Because if not, then I won't have anything to feel relaxed from, you know. Uh, uh, and the same thing applies to I would say the mess that's going on in the world right now. This seeming chaos caused by the virus, and the riots that are happening in the U.S., or anything that you can mention. Um, you know, Chaos has to happen in order for order to arise, because if chaos doesn't exist, then what is there to give order to? Order ceases to exist if chaos ceases to exist. And you can try to apply this in every aspect of your life. Like, as an artist, I also apply it in creativity, right? Like, the opposite of creativity is boredom. So I need to feel bored sometimes and not know what to do with my time, so that creativity can arise from that boredom. Because if boredom ceases to exist, then creativity ceases to exist. It's the same with everything. So to have the non-dual mindset is to realize that the opposites are one, and to hold in consciousness this inseparable quality of the universe. And once you do that, you learn to navigate life much better. You stop trying to chase the good all the time and pleasure all the time. And you realize that you have to experience both sides, right? You have to go through it. And and my my approach is to just surrender, right? And realize that you know the bad times have to come in order for the good times to come, and it's all a dance between opposites. So I hope this makes you think in a different way, and it maybe makes you reflect on some things that have been happening in your life, and maybe helps you shift your mindset so that you have a better ride. Thanks for watching, and thanks for listening. See you in the next video.